I think that I've always or primarily worked in people analytics data. And what I've noticed from brief stints, outside of people analytics is that just the content area is so much harder with people data. I think that, challenges that people face are the systems have evolved a lot. You probably have your people data in a lot of different systems. It's hard to pull all that together, but more fundamentally, you're tracking something, when you try to track people and their careers through the organization, you are dealing with such an incredibly complex topic. People are a lot more than clicks on a web page. They're more than an order going through, an inventory system. People are evolving and changing all of the time. They're having different experiences. They're very multifaceted, obviously, and just trying to capture a person in data is, I think we need to attempt it as part of the work that we do, but we need to be incredibly humble about it. And it brings all of the challenges of doing data really well to the forefront. When you're trying to track people over time, you need to, for example, really master the concept of time. People are very different from year to year. You can't just look at a snapshot of one point in time. You have to think about, where was this person in the context of their career at this point in time when they did this thing? And capturing all of that in a database and learning how to query that and thinking about it, even so that you can just get to that really minimal approximation of the complexity of somebody learning and growing at work. It's a ton of work. So I think we have to be humbled. We also have to really apply ourselves so that we're not underestimating the problem or being overly simplistic in how we think about people. And I'll try to dig into this a little more, but for me at One Model, it always comes back to time. And we have kind of the question there of like, what does good data mean? Good data means effective data in my mind. To boil it way down, knowing somebody had a performance review score, or they did an engagement survey, or they were at a particular part of the organization, when, and you need to be able to say, almost arbitrarily, as of June 17th, 2 years ago, what was true about this person at that point in time and what is now the case. So my simple answer, I have to boil it down, good data is effective data. And I'll turn it over to, I think we're going reverse order. So I'll go to Dr. Moon maybe next, or let you route things.
And Phil, you have me starting to jump to the challenges, so I'm gonna save that. But I absolutely echo that. So what I wrote down in my notes ahead of time was it's having relevant access to relevant and timely data, right? So that point in time doesn't tell you that much, but it's also about having data that is actually it's using that data in an appropriate way. So you may have tons of data, but if you're not actually using it, for good, right? It's like as one article I wrote, right? Using data for good and not evil, then it doesn't matter how good the data is in and of itself. I think the other thing is that, I think the basic question you ask, how important is quality data? Well, I think it's somewhat of a rhetorical question. It's really important. However, we must not let it become so important that we are constantly seeking the perfect data set, the cleanest data set, the exact data that's going to be the holy grail to answer every question. And so that sort of bridges a little bit of what the challenge is that people are looking for that. They think that my data has to be absolutely pristine before I can actually generate any insight or do anything meaningful from it. So for me, the good data, right, is data that is useful, timely, relevant, and is used in its appropriate, used for the appropriate things.
Yeah, there's not much to add to it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So just to elaborate on your last point, Dr. There's quality data, and then is that data answering the questions that we have or current business challenges? And I'll probably speak to this later in terms of current business challenges and current business needs, as opposed to this is people analytics and this is the type of data that people analytics needs to collect and analyze and report on. But the question is that data helpful? And then also, to your point, if we're going to have 100% of nothing or 70% of something, rather take 70% of something, even 60%, because really the point is to ask questions and incite conversations as to why things are happening, as opposed to just saying, this is happening, 100% this is happening, and this is what we need to do. It's like, this is a starting point to look at why things are happening, and then have conversation around that, and then look deeper. So really, any indicative data is a starting point, even if it's not 100% accurate, and you know that, and you always have to take that, even if, I mean, there's what's 100% accurate, but I think any starting point is good, and just have in mind what other variables could be correlated to that data that you think this is 100%, you know, quality data, but what is everything that we maybe not thinking of, any biases involved with looking at that specific